Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Leadership. And today I'm so excited to host with me Tyler Tones from the States. And Tyler is the CEO of Stone Allen Consulting. And today, Tyler, of course, after introducing himself, we're going to talk about the RODEO resume. So, Tyler, welcome, and thank you very much for attending.
Thank you so much, Gabby. It's wonderful to be on this international call, and thank you for the kind introduction. I am indeed in the States, and I am in the Republic of Texas right now. So I don't know how many of your viewers
The
have been to
Republic.
this wonderful state. Yep,
The Republic of Texas.
that's right. When they joined the union, they made sure to keep that as part of the condition for being part of the United States is that they would be known as a commonwealth. So special status for Texas. It's great to be here.
Great, and great to having you. By the way, we are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you are having any trouble following us or commenting on one of the platforms, try to jump to another platform. And today is all about the RODEO resume. Tell us more about that, Tyler. What do you mean by RODEO resume?
Well, you know what? I've got a little presentation for you to kind of walk you through the idea, but here's where it came from. The genesis of the idea what came from my 25 years of being a technical recruiter for great companies like SpaceX and Northrop Grumman and National Instruments and Verizon and Fox and all these media companies in Los Angeles. And so as I went through that process, I had a chance to marry up my two parts of my background. I actually started my career as a teacher and a high school coach, and so I got ingrained in the idea of really coaching people through whatever it happened to be, English or social studies. And then when I moved over into recruiting, I had the opportunity to bring the recruiting and the teaching together when I got tapped on the shoulder in the dot bomb era. If any of you have gray in your beard like I do, and you remember the 2000, 2001 dot bomb era, I got tapped on the shoulder and they said, "Hey, Tyler, would you like to be a career coach or an outplacement coach?" And I was like, "I don't even know what that is." And they said, "You're going to be teaching people about how to go find a new job." I go, "Oh, that's perfect. That's my two worlds coming together." And so I had another opportunity to do that in the 2009 kind of downturn. And that's what I'm doing full time now. I'm not doing recruiting. I'm just doing career coaching. And what I found out was there are aspects that people don't understand about the whole ecosystem of getting a new job. One of those aspects is what is the form and function of a resume? What does a resume actually do? Everybody knows they need one. Everybody knows that their resume stinks right now, but they don't really know what to do about that. And they don't really know what it should be. And so I came across an article, and the article said that scientists have figured out that you have 7.4 seconds, Gabby, with the hiring manager that's looking at your resume before they put you in the call or do not call pile. That's not very long to tell your life story, and certainly convince somebody that you can do this fantastic job that you've been spending your life preparing for in 7.4 seconds. And so what I did then is I backed into two aspects of it. And that's kind of how I came up to this rodeo resume idea. Because in a rodeo, those cowboys have 8 seconds to hang on to that giant bull that is irritated, and he's 1,500 pounds of muscle moving around trying to get that cowboy off. It's the same concept with your resume. That's the rodeo resume.
It also follows the IDA principle in marketing: A for attention, I for interest, D for desire, and A for action. And as you mentioned, you have only 7 seconds to grab the attention of the recruitment, whoever is doing the screening or the recruitment. The big question is, how do you grab the attention of the one who is screening or interviewing or the recruitment manager or HR? Is it the content? Is it the substance? Is it your photo? What specific tips you would give someone who is currently revisiting his or her resume?
You know, that is a great question. Everybody wants to know that, right? Because they all want to be telling the right thing, and they're trying to match up their career to these bullet points that you see on the job description. You're like, how am I going to tell you the 8 million times I've done that successfully? I want you to know, Gabby, how good I am at doing these things, and how I've developed really this expertise that you need to know about. How am I going to do that on a piece of paper? And so the rodeo resume kind of goes about two things. Would it be appropriate for me to kind of walk you through this in a little bit more of a kind of a teaching format? Would that be appropriate for this forum? Or should I talk you through it? Gabby, I lost you for a second. I don't know if I'm off in ether space or what.
I can hear you, Tyler.
Okay, good. Do you think it would be appropriate to show you this in a kind of a like walk you through it, or would you rather talk through it?
Yeah, just go through it. And if you would like to share something, share the screen. You can do this.
Okay, great. I think I'm going to do that if you don't mind. And we won't do this too much time. So I'm going to share. Let me window. Here we go. And I'm going to share this. I'm going to do it in this format. And let me know when you guys can see.
We can see the screen.
Rodeo resume. You can see it now?
Yep.
So if I'm to walk you through it, the answer to the question, what can I show in my resume is not much, really, is the answer to that question. It's impossible to get your entire career down to 7.4 seconds. It's impossible to get your career down to 2 pages on a resume. So with that bad news, let me kind of walk you through what you need to think through. You don't need to get the job in 7.4 seconds. You just have to get somebody interested and get their eyeballs on the right things. And so that's what I call this a rodeo resume. So kind of let me walk you, let me back up a little bit, because the resume is not designed to get you the satisfaction that you want in your career, right?
I just want to, if I may interrupt, and for the people who are following us on Instagram, you might see half of the screen due to the Instagram portrait format. So I would advise you to jump to the other platforms to see the whole screen that Tyler is sharing now, whether LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. We are there, so you can see the whole screen.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you for doing that, because I didn't even know that about Instagram. So thank you for getting our Instagrammers on a format that they can see. And I'm also going to talk you through it. So what we're looking at right now is a satisfaction curve. And so when we start working with anybody who's interested in either upgrading their career right where they're sitting in their current job, or make a change, a little change, or make a huge life change, the idea is to map it out. We map it out kind of measuring 4 things. And these are things that need to be not only understood by the job seeker, but they also need to be understood by the interviewer, right? So the 4 things are the thrill, the skill, fulfill, and bill. Thrill are things you love to do. These are the parts of your job that you just really excel at. You love to do these things. Now, everybody has to do other things that they don't love to do as much. But if you find yourself doing a preponderance of things that you don't even like just because you're good at them and somebody has tapped you on the shoulder to do them, then maybe you're not in the thrill circle where you need to be. The skill are the things you can do. These are the things that you're very good at doing. And sometimes the entire interview can just be about this one aspect of your career, the skill, right? Everybody's trying to match those bullet points up on their resume to make sure that somebody knows, I can do this job, Gabby. And it's a shame to only leave one out of these 4 things in there. The next one down at the bottom is fulfill. And these are the aspects of your job that maybe are hard to pin down, and they're hard to talk about because they're bigger than just the job itself. I love working. I've got a partner who came out of the military, and he said, you know, Tyler, working in the military, everything is different. So the guys that are mechanics in the military feel this sense of higher purpose, where their platoon is reliant upon them, and maybe even the entire mission, or maybe even the entire war is reliant upon them doing their job really well. And then when they get out of that fulfillment, they get out of that arrangement, when they get into civilian life, they're not a mechanic anymore, because the skill of doing the mechanic is not tied to the fulfill anymore. And then the last area is bill, and this is what you can get paid to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example of myself, and maybe you've got an example too, Gabby. There was a time when I was a teacher, I had the thrill of teaching. I loved seeing light bulbs go on in young minds. I was actually really good at it. I enjoyed doing it, and so I was really good at it, and it was very, very fulfilling. But the problem was when I did an exercise of counting up the number of hours that I was working in the classroom and then on the court when I was coaching, I ended up making like $3 an hour. So it was not paying me what I needed to do to have the lifestyle that I wanted. So I had 3 out of the 4, and I had to make a change. And so this is kind of what we're trying to accomplish when we're going to get a new job, and knowing this will help us make a better resume. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. However, the difference between thrill and fulfill, again, what is it?
Yeah, thrill are things that you just love to do. These are
Okay.
kind of things that you love to do, and fulfill would be the things that are bigger than yourself and bigger than the job.
Mm-hmm.
These would be things like I love the mission of my company. Maybe I'm working for the Red Cross, or maybe I'm maybe the mission of the company is to connect people across, and I just love that aspect of the thing. It's not necessarily the job that's in there, or my job connects to values. And what I want to point out a little bit later on is how to measure what those values are. And very few people do it. And almost nobody interviews for the values. And yet it's a super important thing. We'll come back to that aspect of it, because the fulfill is often called cultural fit. Have you ever heard that term in interviews?
Cultural
where it's like,
fit.
Gabby is super smart, but he's not a cultural fit. Did you ever hear
Exactly.
that?
We have this quadrant when I coach business owners for when they want to coach their team, or they recruit or grow their team. I show them the matrix of the cultural fit against their technical fit. And whenever if they are the best at what they do, but they don't fit in the culture of the company, this is where you should fire them, and fire them in public. This is what
Absolutely.
I tell my
Absolutely.
coaches. Yeah.
Well, it's even worse than that, Gabby, because you were just assuming that the company understands and has a cultural profile that they've identified, and that everybody in the company agrees on. And that is just not the case. In my experience, the biggest frustration that I had was this. Let me tell you. Let me move on a little bit. So we talked about the 8 seconds in the RODEO resume, and that you've got to be able to impress somebody in there. I'm going to talk about some of the mistakes that are being made right now in resume writing, and maybe you can identify a couple of these. I'm not going to read them one by one, but just gaze through there, and tell me a couple that you see a lot, Gabby, in your experience.
Oh, definitely the formatting errors, the lack of visually putting a resume, the grammatical mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
using the keywords and the metrics,
Yeah.
using the resume, the numbers, achievements in numbers, using the same one for all applications without
Right.
differentiating so that depending on the job, incumbent job, and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, these are from Indeed, by the way, and Indeed sees more resumes than any other platform on the planet, and so these are the ones that they curated.
I'm interested in the last one. Is it a good
Yeah.
practice to attach a photo of
This
themselves or not?
this is culturally relevant. So it might be the case where you are in the
Mm-hmm.
Middle East to do it. In the United States, it is not. It is not it's not considered a professional thing to do. Now, I know that everybody is going to have their photo up on LinkedIn, and every recruiter is going to go to LinkedIn to find out more about you, Gabby, and there your photo is. But on a resume, it is distracting, and unless it's called for in your particular region of the world, I don't recommend it. Do not put a photo on your resume. Let the resume be something that is easy to read for the recruiter. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Cool. Let's keep moving along. I want to kind of move through these things. So you've got a checklist for some of the formatting things. And what I like to do is just keep it simple, stupid, right? And kick the KISS methodology, KISS. And not to be too cheeky about it, but really, if we can just remember to keep things simple, then that 7.4 seconds is going to be used wisely. And the hiring manager or the recruiter will get down to the point that they need to. So that means consistency all the way through in your fonts and your dates and alignment and spacing. That means simplicity in the template, in the readability, and in a one-page format that is easy for somebody to digest. I, as a professional recruiter, I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I want to see it in the spot I want to see it in. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But when you're looking at your resume, I want you to think about your resume in two ways. It's the beauty and the beast. The beauty is the storytelling. This is the ethos. This is that culture fit that we were just talking about. What was the quadrant? Quadrant 2 for you?
Yeah.
That you were talking? Yeah. Quadrant 2. The intersection of that thrill, skill, fulfill, right? That's the intersection of the storytelling, the ethos that you really need to tell to be a fit. Now, the beast is the SEO. That's the keywords and phrases. And most people spend all of their time on this piece of it, which is not bad because it does help you beat the ATS. And the ATS is an applicant tracking system. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But what I want to focus on is the combination of these two things, meaning that you are hitting the ethos and you're hitting the technical aspect of it. Because you can't do one without the other, it won't work. If you don't have the beast, you won't even get seen by any human eyeballs. It'll just be technical eyeballs, and you'll get that really quick letter of going, thank you for applying, but we decided to go with other candidates. And you're like, wait a minute, I just applied 30 seconds ago. How can you possibly have read my resume? And the answer is they didn't read your resume. The keywords didn't pass muster for the applicant tracking system, and they just kicked you out without even any human being seeing your story. So we got to get them both right. Is that clear? Is this something that you've thought of before?
Interesting, because this is what I was going to ask you, because some of the applications are done automatically on platforms where they screen you electronically and digitally, and they look for keywords and they eliminate you right off the bat. So I was just asking for that. It's not only a CV, it's an application.
It is.
It's the RODEO application also, not only a RODEO resume. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, it is. And there's two pieces to it, right? So I, as a recruiter, I'm trying to find you, Gabby. I am trying my very best to find you because you are the guy for this role. But I cannot find you if not only your resume, but your LinkedIn doesn't follow these principles. If the keyword I'm using to find you, executive coach, is not all over your resume, then I'm not even going to find you, because I'm going to put in executive coach, Middle East, big four experience. And I'm going to find you only if you have big four experience in there, or if you've listed out, that you're an executive coach all over the place and you've matched those keywords that I'm using to try and find you. So let's dive into both these sides a little bit. The beast side, the technical fit, is simply this. Again, psychometrics, they're going to look for these things very quickly. They're not reading, they're scanning your resume with their eyeballs. And that's the same thing that an applicant tracking system is going to do. They're looking for those keywords, and those keywords are going to be limited. There's probably going to be no more than 6. And I would say that if it's a human eyeball trying to find you a recruiter, it's probably going to be more like 3 or 4 keywords that they're going to use to narrow down that list of thousands of resumes down to something that I can actually call through.
Is it a good practice, Tyler, to put those keywords in bold on a traditional resume, or underline them, or put them in another color or font?
No, you don't need to do that, because again, it's not really human eyeballs that are seeing them first. It's a keyword search on LinkedIn or in my applicant tracking system, where I've got 100 people that have applied for a job and I want to narrow that down to 15 to call. And so the first thing I'm going to do is type in that keyword search, and it's going to be digital eyes. It doesn't matter what those look like. They just have to be in there early and often. And how do you find
Interesting.
out those things, right? So it's going to be technical aptitude. It's going to be soft skills. It'll be your educational credentials. I suggest that that bring those educational credentials right up to your title line. So it's going to say, I don't even know how many degrees you have. I think it's a lot, and certifications, Gabby. So up at the top of your resume, for example, on your resume, I would put down, I would put down Gabby Awad, PCC, and if you've got a master's degree, put that in, MA or whatever it happens to be, right up at the top, so that those can be found really easily in a search, because that will be one of the credentials I'm looking for as a recruiter.
Can I
Yeah.
share your website, Tyler, on
Yes, absolutely. My
Instagram?
website is stoneallen.com.
Okay,
It's
I'm sharing that also.
stoneallen.com. Great. How are we doing on time?
It's an interesting topic. I don't care about time. Usually it's a
Okay.
20 to 30 minutes live, but it's very interesting.
Okay, great. Are there any questions in the chat that I need to address?
I'm trying to look into that. No questions.
Okay.
On Instagram. Let me see the other platforms. No, we don't have any questions.
Okay, great. Well, let me continue on, and as we break down the resume into different sections, people will understand kind of what each section is designed to do. So again, no pictures, no text boxes. Again, when people go, well, what do you mean text boxes? It's like, don't come into your Microsoft Word and start putting boxes of text around, because they just don't get ingested very well. They don't get searched very well. So what you want to do is you want to use the normal format. I also don't like headers. I don't like footers. Those headers and footers are coded differently in ASICs, which is the background of word processing. And so as it's searching through that, you want it all to be one layer. So no headers, no footers, no text boxes. I don't even like tables, because tables can also be coded differently on the back end. So I like it to look like this. But you can see, there's my resume. It's pretty clean, isn't it? I mean, you can see that there's different sections. And if I just start reading a little bit of a section, I can just go on to the next one. I can get it very quickly. I can ascertain what we're looking at. The top is going to be, contact info. Super big, super easy to read. It's going to be a very big font, larger than, not 224 plus. I've got a little typo in there. It's got to be 24 plus in the font for your name. Again, I probably should have my MEd behind my name, just so that somebody knows I've got my master's degree, and I make those a little slightly smaller. But there it is. It's all in there, and the functions you need in there are what area you live in. You don't need a street address anymore. Your email address, your phone number, your cell, and then of course your LinkedIn profile. And then we move on to the next area. The next area is interesting. It's a call out. And so as you see in the top area, the very first part of my summary is going to be a highlighted title that I give myself. Now, this is not necessarily the title you had in your last job, because at certain places like Northrop Grumman is an aerospace vendor, and they're gigantic, and they have all these crazy titles, that don't match. For example, a director at Northrop Grumman. Guess how many people would be under a director at Northrop Grumman?
How much?
Take a wild guess.
Few. Very
Nope.
few. No?
Nope. 3,000 people will roll up under a director. A senior manager will have 300 people under them, right? A manager will have several dozen people underneath them. So it just doesn't translate when you come out of Northrop Grumman with a director title to go into a small company where, they're like, oh, great, we're looking for a director of, some sort of software development, where you came out of being a director with 3,000 people under you. It just doesn't match to have 12 people under you. So again, you want to size and scale this thing to match the job you're going after, not necessarily what HR decided to call you in your last job. So that's the call out.
This is very important, because the IDA principle, again, attention should be there. You should grab the attention, the first seven seconds in this first paragraph, right, Tyler?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so let me give you an example. So what we're seeing right now is talent acquisition leader and coach. Now that might work for a variety of things, but if I'm going after a director job, I'm going to put down director of talent acquisition, so that the recruiter goes, "Yep, I've got my guy." Even if I'm going for a VP, I have not had a VP of talent acquisition role in the past, so I'm just going to put director down. And they're going to understand, great, he's ready for the VP role. I can see the size and scope of his work is ready. I've got my guy. So the recruiter is going to look in there and make sure I've got, got the guy just in what I call myself. Now this is modular. It only takes several seconds to change that into what it needs to be. And the job description and the job itself is going to determine whether I call myself a TA leader, a director of talent acquisition, or if coaching is the aspect of it, I'll probably put executive coach first, and maybe even leave TA leader off of that if that's the job that I'm going after. So that's the call out. The next part is a summary. The top of your thing needs to be a 30,000 foot view of your career. This is size and scope. The part down at the bottom is a particular methodology that we use at Stone Allen to help people storytell. It's called a silver bullet, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I'm just real high level. What you want to do is you want to answer the question, who am I looking at? I've got the title on there, and what is the size and scope? So, has he been in Fortune 500? Yes. Has he been in startups? Yes. Good. I've got my guy. 20 years experience. Good. That's about right. Leadership. You've led teams from 5 to 50. Excellent. That's about the size of our team that we're going to do. And then some high level understanding about what my special sauce is. Highly technical, IT and engineering, awesome, full life cycle, excellent. So now you've got an idea, and if you don't even read anymore, the recruiter has looked at my degree, he's looked at where I live, he's looked at my title, and now he's looked at my summary. He can pass my resume on right now. So that didn't even take 7.4 seconds, and he's already convinced that he's going to keep reading, right? All right, cool.
So we got their attention. Now we want to create that interest to continue on reading the resume.
That's exactly right. And so the next part is something that, again, is proprietary to the way that I do my career coaching. And again, it comes out of both the coaching aspect and the talent acquisition aspect. Now, if human eyeballs are reading this, it's time to tell a story. Because if I'm trying to match up a list of, let's say, 20 bullet points that this director of talent acquisition is going to need to be able to do, that's exhaustive. To go in, okay, that match, it looks like about a 75% match. I can't tell the size and scope. Was he good at it? Did he just do things? And so what we talk about is, again, a silver bullet. And you can see these two bullets are stories. Story number one is a call out of a particular time where I was brought in to do a greenfield startup of a talent acquisition group. There was nobody there before I got there. I had to build it all from scratch. And over 2 years, we hired 120 people, excuse me, 250 people in the run up to being acquired for 350 million. I got that number wrong, by Verizon Digital Media. So somebody can go, okay, Tyler, the type of talent acquisition director we need is somebody who's going to build. We got to build this team. And it's critical that the first 50 hires are the very best available, because we're going to build this entire company on their backs. So I've told that story in 3 lines. It doesn't take very long to size and scope out that I can come in and with nothing, and I can leave you with a fully functioning world-class talent acquisition group. And that's what we call a silver bullet. There's another silver bullet right underneath there that talks about large company. So I came into a $1.2 billion company that had 7,000 employees, and I did the same thing. It was smaller, not a smaller scale, a different scale, where I was building a group again to do a specific task for that talent acquisition group. So now I've got startup, and I've got big company, and the recruiter can really size and scope. It's kind of like sports. Are you a sports fan of any kind, Gabby?
Yeah.
What do you watch?
Tennis, mainly.
Tennis. Do you have time to watch every single tennis match that's out there? No.
Definitely not. Right.
So you've got to go on to ESPN or something like that, and you've got to find out the 5 great plays, right? What was the break point, of this particular game, that won the break and got that set. You need to see that. You need to see this amazing play where they went and got a lob or whatever it happens to be. And in 3 minutes, you can get the gist of that amazing match. And that's the same thing we're trying to do with this resume. We're trying to highlight the things in my career that are going to make somebody go, wow, this is my guy. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Cool. I'm going to rip through the next parts. The skills and certs, these need to be easy to read. This is going to satisfy two things. This is going to satisfy the search word criteria, and it's also going to satisfy the size and scope that human eyeballs are going to look for, right? And it's going to be easy to read. Again, I put them over in categories over on the left. So if you want to see my certifications, you can see them over on the right. But if not, you're right to technical proficiency. Hey, maybe I'm really interested to see what applicant tracking systems Tyler has looked at in the past. And it's like, oh, good, Taleo. That's the one we use. Or at least he can learn it because Taleo is a big thing. And I don't have to read through all of it, right? I'm bucketing this so that you can either read it or skip over it. Either way, the applicant tracking system is going to find it. The search word searches that a recruiter is going to do is going to find it. And then they can dive in as they see. So the keyword match is important. And this is how you do the keyword match. So you find a job on Indeed that looks like a great fit. You identify the top duties and responsibilities, and then you dig for keywords and phrases to see how many times that keyword or phrase shows up in the job description. That's going to give you an idea how important it is. And then you do the same thing for your resume. And so if leadership development is an important part of the job, because it shows up 7 times in the job description. And then I go to my resume and I do a Control F, leadership development, and it has 0 on there. How well do you think I'm going to fare in those searches?
Okay. But sometimes I don't know, as an applicant, I don't know what to put as keywords. Is there a place other than Indeed, or is there, can people approach you as a career coach to help them reinvent their resumes?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it really comes from the job description. And if you don't want to keep doing what you've been doing in the past, right? If you come to us and we determine through some evaluations that we do that you need to do a pivot because you're not in that thrill, skill, fulfill, and bill area, you're like, Tyler, I'm not using skills that I love. I'm not using any strategy in my current thing. It's like, okay, well, let's not get you a job that's tactical. Let's get you a strategic job. And to get that strategic job, we're going to see that that's going to be on the case in here. And so you kind of go to Indeed.com. I'll just show you live how it looks and how this process works. It's not brain surgery for sure. And so we're gonna get talent acquisition vice president. That's the next level for me, right? And so big chasm, tactical at the director level, strategic at the vice president level. I think strategically because of my personality type. That's another assessment that we use to help you figure out where in your career you need to go. I think in terms of global strategic types of things. And so I don't always perform as well as I could if I'm in a job that doesn't have that as part of the job, right? If I'm not sitting at the table with the executive group trying to figure out, our growth strategy, then they're not using all of my skills, right? So here we go. We look at this. I don't even know anything about BNP Paribas, but what we do is we look down here at the job description. Let me bring this a little bit larger so we can come down a little bit. And here's a typical job description, right? A bunch of stuff about BNP, Bank of the West. Got it. It looks like a bank. And I can go look on their line and see what it is. Here are the success ones, right? Result and impact, leadership, collaboration, good. Compliance, culture, and conduct, good. So what I want to do is look through these responsibilities. And if this is a well-written job description, and that's not a given, then the major responsibilities are going to be here. So what I do is I look at this and go, let's look at the first one. Serve as senior custody account manager in charge of financial institutions. I don't even know what a custody account manager is. So I'm going to have to look at that and go, okay, how is that talent acquisition? Is that something where I'm going to be hiring for that? Let's look at the next one. Act as an entry point of contact with clients. This is very tactical, right? Ensure accurate response to clients. That's very tactical. Participate to client conference calls and meetings. Very tactical. Adherence to regulations. Very tactical. Adherence to internal controls. Tactical. Deliver constant high quality of service. maybe strategic, not really sure if they're
Strategic.
going to, yeah, if they're going to allow me to do that, then it's strategic. If they're going to go, here's the quality numbers and I want those numbers to go up, that's tactical, right? So we've gotten all the way down to number 8 here, and I'm not seeing the strategy that I need to. So I'm instantly going to go, not probably mine. Why is it that way? Well, it's a bank. They call everybody a VP at a bank, right? The teller could be a VP at a bank,
Yeah.
right? So it's like,
Yeah.
because I'm aware of the thrill, bill, skill, and fulfill, I know this is not my job. I'm not even going to waste time on it. So forget trying to match my resume to this. I'm not even going to apply to it. But again, if you don't know the thrill, bill, skill, and fulfill aspect of it, then you're in trouble, because you're going to be applying to a bunch of jobs that don't match what you want to do, and your resume is not going to match what they want you to do. So that keyword match is very important to understand those things going in. Otherwise, this is an exercise in futility.
Yeah, and here probably another advice would be, depending on the geographical location where you are applying in this part of the world, or even the company is American against European or British, they might be using different keywords.
Oh
So
yeah,
again, you need
very
need
different
to,
keywords, and you can't assume that they're going to know that it's the same thing, because again, the search term that I use is the search term that I use. Now, LinkedIn is fairly good at fuzzy logic. So if I am a recruiter and I go to LinkedIn and I'm trying to find an executive coach, then it may or may not know that leadership development is the same thing. So if you've got a ton of leadership development instead of executive coach on there, you cannot be sure that you're going to get found. You've got to have both. You got to have executive coach on there if that's what they're really looking for, right? So, as we go on to the other parts of the resume, we're still thinking in those two terms, the beauty and the beast, right? The beauty is the storytelling. The beast is the technical aspect. And you can see it here. I've tried to do both. I've tried to put it in a format that's easy to read. You can understand my role at National Instruments was a threefold role: manager, architect, recruiter. Awesome. It's a hands-on type of role. I'm doing both the tactical and the strategic. And then
for people following us now and seeing this live, is there a place on the website that they can download like a generic template of how a CV should look like?
You know what I'm happy to do? I'm happy to make that one of my giveaways. And I also will be having another one of these RODEO resume things for free. And I'm happy, anybody who's on this that just mentions Gabby, I'm happy to give that away as a giveaway for free. And yes, you will get a template for this kind of thing. And this, of course, is, and I'm going to give that away for free because there's a lot of stuff. Education, there's some stuff, and I'm happy to send you this deck as well and give you a link to this deck so that anybody that's watching this can go through it on their own timing and go, I think I understand this. So again, here's the beast part of it, beating the ATS. And that is the keywords identified, skills and qualifications there, keyword frequency, right? And doing a Control S search. Applicant tracking system, boom, boom, boom. Now, the part that I want to get to now is the part that is most often left out. Now, if you do not have the storytelling aspect of it, then you are incomplete, especially as you get higher in the level of position that you're looking for, because executives, when they're looking to hire a VP or a director, they want to see the potential for somebody to be a true leader in the organization. And there's various aspects of that you coach on a lot, Gabby, and a lot of your outbound, kind of stuff that you do is about developing those skills. Well, what if you can't see them on a resume, right? What if I can't see that? What if I just see tactical, tactical, tactical? You're not my guy, right? Of getting to that bigger layer. So why don't we talk about storytelling, which is ethos? It's the culture fit. Let me bring you into a room. So this room is a debrief room. We have just interviewed Gabby Awad for a VP position over at a company where he's going to lead the leadership development, efforts for a big company. You've gone through 12 interviews. We're sitting around, and everybody is giving their 2 cents about your experience, about your background, about the connection that they had with you. What do you think is the number one obstacle in that room for you getting that job? What's the number one thing we're talking about in that debrief that is keeping you from getting that job?
Connecting with the people existing in this room, making that connection.
Making a personal connection is half of it. The other half of it is what? We've already talked about it. It's the larger connection to what?
The potential that they can see in me. Am I the right person for this job?
Right. And by the right person, they have not identified what culture fit means.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the very same room, I'm going to have one person over here going, man, Gabby is a perfect culture fit. And somebody across the table from them goes, man, Gabby is a horrible culture fit. Why did two people who are very smart and interviewed the same person in the same day came to opposite conclusions? Because they have not defined and they have no rubric for determining culture fit. And so one says yes, one says no. And so it's incumbent upon you, Gabby, to get that out on the table and make sure they know what kind of culture fit it is, beginning with your resume. And then
how to do
continuing.
that.
Yeah, that's the part, right? So how do you do that? Well, here's how you do it. Telling the story, again, this is a proprietary methodology, but you can fake it even without knowing the proprietary methodology. You go to, I'm gonna do this, it's a little bit quick. So if you look at this, we do exactly what we just did. We go to the job description. We find out what the job description is looking for. And then we do storytelling about a time when. Tell me about a time when. That goes in the top part of your resume, goes into your LinkedIn profile. It goes into your interviews. So those little vignettes are stories that you're going to tell, which have included in them the acronym of the silver bullet, these things right here, right? The personality, the values, and the emotional intelligence. They are not going to ask you questions about your personality. They're just not. They're not going to ask you questions about your values. And they're not certainly going to ask questions about EIQ because they don't even know what that is. And if they want to hire somebody with a high EIQ, once again, we have this definition problem. What is EIQ? Well, part of what we do in our coaching is going, listen, I know you need a resume, but before you get a resume, you need to know these things about yourself. Now, we, as part of our program, help you with these, and we give you an assessment on these, but these are available online as well. You can get a personality inventory that's easy to use. I suggest the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator because it is the oldest and most valid and reliable of all of the personality inventories out there. And it's been applied to everything over the past 70 years since it's been around. But you can use other ones if you so choose. You can use a DISC. You can use you can use an Enneagram if you so choose. But you have to know how to talk about your personality and how those differentiators are unique to you. The values, there are several out there. We use one called the Golden Values Arrangement List. And this is a force ranking of 21 operational values and 21 life values. So you can highlight at the very top, these are the things that I really, really care about. And values are so important that I can almost always talk to someone who is trying to make a job change. And in those top 7 values, one or more of those values are being compromised at their current position, either by their boss, by the type of job that they're doing, by the level of job that they're doing. Something is compromising that value. And if we could fix that problem, they'd be happy to stay. So values and personality are super important to know about yourself, and they're super important to talk about yourself. And then EIQ. Once you get those vocabulary going, now your story is going to change a little bit. So the way that we do it is this silver bullet. And please feel free to steal this, anybody that's out there. It's proprietary. It works. Okay. It's akin to the STAR methodology, if you've ever heard that, the situation, task, action, and results. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gabby, is that something that has crossed your path in the past?
Yeah.
Well, it's deficient. The STAR methodology is just more bullet points. It's I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. And it's like, yeah, I know you did that, Gabby, because every VP of employee development has done that. These are just tasks you're talking about. It's not the real story. The real story is right in the intelligence, leadership, and values, right? It's not just what you did in the execution and the results. It's the intelligence gathering that you did. It's how you found out information and how you valued information and crunched it and came up with insights. Then it's the leadership that you employed. Did you guide people that didn't report to you? Did you influence vendors? Did you build a team on trust where you didn't have to manage people because they managed themselves because they understood the vision that you were selling for your department and for where you wanted to go? How did you what values did you employ on that? Do you have a strong value of trust and honesty that you build into your team? Or do you have a strong value of stick-to-itiveness? You know, there's lots of different words for that, but stick-to-itiveness, are you going to see it through the hard times? Or are you just going to give up when you find your first obstacle? These are the things that need to be part of your storytelling. So you can imagine the difference between going, hey, I built a team, right? Well, that's great, Tyler, that you built a team. But what if I go back to, hey, I started from scratch, and understanding that hiring was the #1 factor for our company's success. I connected all the way up to the executive leadership team with hiring. I didn't go to HR and ask for a whole bunch of job descriptions. I went to the executives and go, what kind of team are we building here? Right? That's the value of understanding how important talent acquisition is for me and when I'm answering a question. And then when I execute on it, I also have a value that things need to be measured, right? Measurable success. And so I put in these metrics along the way to see how we're doing and whether we're hiring the type of people that we need to hire and whether we're beating out our competition like Google and Amazon and the other big hiring teams. Are we beating them because we're telling the right story? So that's the difference between just going, hey, I built a team and this is how I built a team that was successful, built on these leadership traits and built on these values. I'm going to pause right there and let that sink in and get your thoughts about that.
That's great. Just for time management purposes, Tyler, and this is a big topic. And if people wants to search more about it, I encourage them to go to Stone Island Consulting, find you on LinkedIn or on web, and to get in touch with you. And today I've learned a lot of the stuff. I wished I had knew them when I was in the corporate world or when I used to have to be an executive or an employee even. I would like to thank you very much for this, Tyler. And I encourage people to get in touch with you for this. And what advice to close this live session? What #1 advice would you give people when they are thinking of changing their job to something else?
Yeah, I would give these 3 pieces of advice. #1, do some homework to identify what you care about, the thrill, skill, and fulfill. It's not just about skill. Identify, use the stuff that's available out there. Get a coach like Gabby to help you understand what motivates you, and spend the time taking those unique motivators about your personality, about your values, about your EIQ, and understand that you have unique superpowers that need to be talked about. That's the first thing that I would do, is identify those things. I call that know thyself, right? It's the famous words of Sun Tzu, know thyself. Or Socrates, actually, before Sun Tzu. Know thyself is a hugely important way to get it right. #2 is learn how to tell stories. Use a methodology that works for you to learn how to tell stories that are succinct, data rich, and highlight the important stuff about yourself. So #1, define your superpowers. #2, learn how to tell stories. And #3, learn how to network. Those 3 things are the keys to getting you where you need to go.
Exactly. I would like to leave this with a quote. Success is about the books that you read, the people that you meet, and the actions that you take.
Oh, wow. Perfect.
Thank you very much, Tyler. Again, this has been we've exceeded the time, 50 minutes, but full of value, full of
Sorry about
advice.
that.
Very enriching. Thank you very much. And we'll catch up offline.
Absolutely.
Next
It's
week
always
or the week
great.
after.
It's always great being in your network, Gabby. You've surrounded yourself with amazing people. Thank you for watching. If you're online right now, and you can realign your career to something that's going to be absolutely fulfilling. First, you got to believe that, and then you can execute on it. You got to believe that there there is a great fit out there for you.
Thank you, Tyler. Bye for now.
Take care,
Bye.
Gabby.